Good evening. Welcome to the September Carmel Clay School Board meeting. Whether you're joining us for the first time or returning for another riveting meeting, the board is delighted you're joining us for our anniversary. You see, today, well, on September 23rd, 125 years ago, the first cornerstone was laid for our Carmel Clay schools, and tonight we are celebrating. And with this, we shall begin. Madam Secretary, please take roll.
Yes, Madam President, everybody is here, and we have quorum.
Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I ask that following the pledge, you remain standing and join me for a moment of silent reflection in remembrance of Dr. Robert Hartman, former superintendent of Carmel Clay Schools for over 25 years, from 1968 until his retirement in 1993. We have with us another former superintendent. We're excited to have Dr. Barbara Underwood with us, who will be leading us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And on our agenda, we have some very special presentations, and with that, we will have Dr. Swenson lead us.
Thank you very much, Madam President, members of the board, distinguished colleagues, fellow citizens, honored students. I think there's at least one, maybe a pre-student, and fellow citizens. It's my pleasure to present several awards, and I have lots of excellent help to do that. The first is the Healthy Hoosier Gold Level Award, and I will turn to Mrs. Megan Klingensmith, principal at Carmel Elementary, and Mr. Tom Harmus, principal at Creekside, to assist with that presentation. Colleagues.
Good evening. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce and recognize one of Carmel Elementary's amazing staff members, Diane Braun, or Nurse Diane to all of the families at Carmel Elementary. You only need to meet Nurse Diane once to understand and see just a glimpse of her devotion and passion for caring for our children at Carmel Elementary. Nurse Diane has spearheaded the tremendous efforts of our Wellness Committee, which has helped our students, their families, and our staff members realize the importance of making healthy choices in all aspects of their lives. In order to receive a gold medal, Healthy Hoosier Award winner, schools need to provide health and wellness activities in all aspects of their school and have them embedded into their practices. And just a few of the activities that Nurse Diane planned for us last year included a run-walk club for our 4th and 5th grade, hand washing, asthma and sun safety lessons. The Blood Mobile came. We had a canned food drive, and all the students worked on constructing the food pyramid and what exactly that meant. We had a countdown to good health, which spanned January and February, and also corresponded with the Super Bowl. We had some taste testing at lunch, and a pedometer challenge for our 2nd through 5th graders. So I wanted to recognize Nurse Diane and our Wellness Committee in their tremendous efforts in helping us reach our gold status. So thank you, Diane.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to introduce two outstanding Creekside staff members that continuously seek out ways to make Creekside an incredible place for the entire community. First, Claudia Lingeman, our nurse and caregiver for over 1,450 students each and every day. Her outstanding work and compassion for our students and staff is unparalleled. As you might imagine, with this caseload, Claudia would need a colleague to help her coordinate all the activities that led to Creekside receiving the Gold Medal Healthy Hoosier School Award. Chris Murrah acts as our school treasurer, and along with Claudia has been a catalyst in moving our entire school community towards the focus on health. A sample of the activities that the ladies have spearheaded include the Creekside Health Fair, exercise classes for all staff, door decorating contest to welcome back our students, trim a turkey, I'm very good at that, pedometer challenge, and also short-term exercise and fitness challenges for all. Thank you to Claudia and Chris and our Wellness Committee for leading Creekside family to a healthier and happier lives.
For our next two recognitions, it's my distinct pleasure to turn to the leaders of our Carmel Education Foundation. First, our two co-directors, Barb Danquist and Stephanie McDonald, and to Keitha Libman, the president of the board of the Carmel Education Foundation. Colleagues.
Good evening. I would not be here this evening if it weren't for my wonderful great teachers, great ideas committee. And I'd like to recognize the chair, Charlene Miller, and her committee, Jan Bears. Oh, darn. Let me see, June McClarty-Clare, Paul McCarthy, and Margaret Harleys. Margaret? Listen, they were here for cake. I would like to let you know that we have 7 wonderful teachers being recognized and awarded grants. The first winner is Jennifer Bupp. If you could come up and be recognized. Jennifer is a Carmel High School, and with her grant, she will be creating an art garden to provide an aesthetically inspiring outdoor classroom setting for Carmel High School students and faculty to utilize and enjoy. This will impact over 4,300 students. And please, I think they want to shake your hand. Wait, okay. Pam Irvin, and she's from Creekside Middle School, and her principal is Tom Harvest. Let me see. She is receiving the Barbara Underwood grant, and this grant will purchase the NASA's Best Students program. NASA has created a beginning engineering science and technology program that teaches through exploration of the moon how engineers solve problems and develop modes of transportation on the moon and how human will live and work on the moon. Students will be partnering engineers with NASA. This will impact 150 students. And let me say that our grants will touch more than 5,000 Carmel students. Brenda Lester, Carmel High School. Brenda has No Chef Left Behind. Will be purchased with this grant. It will provide teaching materials and enrichment learning opportunities for students enrolled in the Carmel High School culinary course. This course allows students to earn Ivy Tech dual credit as well as food safety and sanitation certification. Rachel Rodriguez, Carmel Elementary School. Rachel is an art teacher, and painting involves a number of cognitive tasks for students, such as experimentation, exploration of cause and effect relationships, critical thinking skills, and visual discrimination. This grant will purchase 12 additional easels and 20 cups for her students to continue their learning. This will impact K through 5 students. Erin Oskay, a kindergarten teacher at Cherry Tree Elementary School. Mary Jo Klingensmith is principal. Early childhood preschool students with special needs achieve their maximum level of independence in an area of gross motor skills. Students need daily opportunities to work on their skills during activities within the classroom and on the playground. This teacher grant will buy gross motor kits. These kits will contain equipment like balance beams, climbing blocks, various size balls, rackets, and bats. This will impact 30 students. The next 2 grants have a technology focus. They are the Ingersoll Rand grants. Ingersoll Rand gives us $2,500. And so, Jill Grimes, social studies teacher, Carmel High School. Oh, sadness. Student response systems, or clickers, will be bought with this grant. Students will receive immediate feedback regarding formative and summative assessments. An individual handheld device is wirelessly connected to the teacher's computer. Students respond to a question by clicking their answers, and the teacher will know immediately if the students understand the concept to continue the lesson, or is it necessary to reteach the concept to do some remediation. Fabulous. And our last, Alicia Larkin, speech pathologist at Carmel Elementary School. Also, I would like to have her colleagues stand. Kathy Height Frederick and Rachel Roman. And also there's Rebecca Nicholas, who's not able to be with us this evening. This grant will add an additional bookmaker studio program to the school's visual library, accessible to all staff. Boardmaker Studio will address specific language and behavior needs of our kindergarten and special needs students K through 5. This program offers a method of creating and delivering standard, aligned activities online through visual templates to aid students of autism, emotionally handicapped, special impaired, deaf, or hard of hearing, and to the incoming kindergarten students. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to do these applications, but also because of your love and passion for the students here. Thank you very much.
And as indicated previously, for our final award, right back to our esteemed colleagues from the Carmel Education Foundation.
Thank you, Jeff. On behalf of the Carmel Clay, it has been CCEF to me for a gazillion years. We are now CEF, Carmel Education Foundation. We would like to acknowledge the celebrations of lots of things that are happening in Carmel this year. Special 175 years for the Carmel community, and a special 125 for the Carmel Clay Schools. So we have this wonderful depiction that was done by Carol Skinner of a variety of scenes throughout Carmel, and there's the Carmel Little seal right there, celebrating 125 years. So on behalf of the Carmel Education Foundation, we would like to wish the Carmel Clay Schools happy 125th for their collaboration with us throughout the years. And, you know, as Jeff said, what do we have, 125 more, and it'll be another celebration?
Absolutely.
Okay. So thank you very much. Here's the little symbol.
I'll just make a quick announcement. We will take a 3-minute break to get some pictures. I think there are some people that would really like to have some photo opportunities. So why don't we break? Go ahead and do that. If you would like to head home to grade papers or study if you're a student, or plan, watch Dancing with the Stars, okay. We're going to take a few minute break here. We're going to get started with the meeting. You can feel free to take pictures back there. We won't bother, so you go ahead. Okay, as we resume, the next item on our agenda is public participation. We do have one person signed up for public participation. I'd like to remind those who are speaking to please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to share your thoughts with the board. The colored lights on the podium will serve as a visual reminder. The yellow will come on when you have 30 seconds left. The red will come on when your 3 minutes are expired, and then a little beep might be following. So, with that, we'll call the first person up. Lisa Washburn, please.
I'm Lisa Washburn, and I live at 13699 Royal Saddle Drive. I'm the mother of a kindergartner at Collegewood Elementary. And this is our family's first child in public school, and we're so excited to be a part of this wonderful school district. We've had a wonderful experience with our first month at Collegewood, and just thank you to everyone here for who's worked so hard to make our school system what it is, and thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Collegewood and the Carmel Clay schools are known for meeting and often exceeding state and national standards of excellence in education. We have a great superintendent, school board, school principals, teachers, and staff members who make all of this possible. Our curriculum continues to evolve and improve as we meet those standards and as we do what is intuitively best for our children, their education, and their physical and social health and wellness. One standard we have yet to meet is in the field of physical activity during the school day. The FDA recommends that children get at least 60 minutes of physical activity each day. The 2012 Indiana Healthy Weight Initiative encourages schools to provide children with at least 30 minutes of physical activity. Currently, our students get 15 minutes of recess time. The Indiana Department of Health has outlined a proposal called Initiative 8. This initiative states that the department's goal for all Indiana schools is, by 2020, to amend existing law that supports daily physical activity in elementary schools to specify at least 30 minutes of daily physical activity. The benefits of recess to our school children are many and multifaceted, including that physical exercise helps children maintain a healthy weight. Recess breaks have been shown to maximize children's cognitive performance and adjust to school. Recess breaks can help improve classroom behavior. The unstructured play found in outdoor recess time provides a unique contribution to a child's creative, social, and emotional development. Recess time provides unique opportunities for children to use problem-solving skills, creativity, and to practice social interactions. And in contrast with time spent at home after school, recess is a time where physical play does not have to compete with sedentary activities, such as homework, video games, and television. I know there are important academic and logistical considerations that need to be taken into account in considering increasing recess time. We wouldn't want recess to take away from needful time in the classroom. We wouldn't want it to cut out time reserved for music or the arts, and we certainly wouldn't want it to lengthen the school day. But I believe that with careful planning, we can avoid these pitfalls. In fact, many studies have shown that physical activity enhances the brain's ability to learn, and interspersing academic learning with physical activity can actually help the brain retain more of what it's learning. This is an exciting time for Carmel Clay schools. We have so many resources available to allow us to make our children's education the best it can possibly be. As we work to meet or even exceed state standards in physical activity, I believe our students will be healthier, more focused at school, and parents, faculty, and students will feel immediately the benefits that come from giving our children a well-balanced lifestyle during the school year. And I have a handout with key points as well as references from scholarly works cited. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is district update. And with that, we have Mrs. Smith and Mr. Westner joining us. Just wanted to point out we're utilizing our district update to have a spotlight on education and a spotlight on excellence. We're using that as an opportunity to showcase and celebrate the positive, innovative ideas that impact our students every day in Carmel Clay schools. And our spotlight is going to be brought to us by Smoky Row Elementary.
Thank you for inviting us to share. Larry is my partner. I'm an administrator at Smoky Row Elementary School, and Larry is one of our fabulous bus drivers of Bus 99. So we do consider ourselves a very close partner when it comes to serving our children every day. So we're thrilled that we could just share this, this great positive partnership that we have to benefit the kids. Positive behavior, I think about 4 years ago, with the leadership of Jay Arthur, kind of brought all of the schools together. Microphone, which is, sorry.
Like I said, Jay Arthur brought all of the elementary schools together so we could organize our thoughts as far as positive behavior and what we were all doing to get on the same page. So once the initiative started, we put together some positive behaviors in all areas of our school. Tonight we're going to highlight or focus on transportation. A few years ago when we started this journey, we ran across a quote, and I'm just going to read it to you. It says, if a child doesn't know how to read, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to swim, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to multiply, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to drive, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to behave, we teach or punish. And we should, we made a big decision then that we wanted to answer this question as easily as we answered the prior questions. So we got together and we brainstormed. And at Smoky Row, we have rocket rules. And our positive behavior team sat down and created all of these wonderful rules for every single, and expectations for every area of our classroom. So we've wanted to focus on the bus. And as you can see, they're just very simple bullets or expectations that we gave the kids. So starting from day one, the very first day of school, the bus drivers, the administration, the teachers, and the kids all get together, and the expectations are posted on every single bus on day one. Just to kind of give you a picture of what that first day looks like, we greet the bus drivers. We sometimes know up until a day ahead of time who our bus drivers are going to be for the year. And we have these nice rocket rules laminated, and the bus drivers are eagerly awaiting them and put them right on the bus. And I'm sure Larry can speak too, that is very helpful. The bus drivers, the kids, the teachers, and the administrators all know the expectations from day one. So going on to the first week, we have a bus driver kind of information meeting at school. So all of the bus drivers, when the kids unload, they come in. We have them, they come in, we serve them donuts and coffee and butter them up. And we provide a lot of resources during that meeting. We have our resource teachers there who service our special education children, the school nurses there, the counselors there, the administrators are there. And it's a nice time. We just sit down and have conversation with all of the bus drivers about the kids on their bus and what their needs are. Often we move kids, we have a seating chart, and at this meeting the bus drivers offer us the seating charts, and you can add to the difference prior to having seating charts compared to this year or even last, of the difference that it makes. Don't be shy, Larry.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, seating charts do help quite a bit. One of the things I used to do, or until the seating chart was really enforced, is I'd put them by groups, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and so forth. That let the kids kind of come in their own grade and sit with their friends and buddies. I kind of resisted putting names to a seating chart because I'm assigning a kid that maybe doesn't want to sit next to another kid, which did happen this year. So I just moved one to the other, and it worked out okay. One of the things that I do is I don't become their best friend or their BFF or whatever it's called now, but I do become their friend, because I know that sometimes when you're your best friend, they won't listen to rules. They think because I'm your buddy, you're not going to make me do certain things. And I've found that has worked very well. And last Friday was the first time that I've been driving for 11 years that I had them all be quiet on the whole route home. They just would not. I don't know what you fed them that day, but they were really riled up, and I could not hear the two-way radio, couldn't hear road conditions or anything, so I told them quiet all the way home. It was kind of nice. I got to hear the engine and the transmission run. So, yeah, it works real well. And I'll tell you, Smoky Row is excellent on getting them in the bus on time so we can get out of Smoky Row on time. And that's a plus for me because I park at the high school. I drive a high school route. And I park on the East Drive, which is a nose tail. There's no assigned parking. So if I'm a few seconds late, 20 or 30 seconds, it can put me back 7 or 8 buses. So when the high school kids come out, all they see are yellow buses. They don't see me in the 3rd or 4th spot, so it creates confusion. So I really do appreciate the being on time. That's really important.
But those are the kinds of things that I think the administrators and the bus drivers during these types of meetings learn from each other. And I had no idea that what we were doing and how well our kids were behaving and being efficient was affecting middle school routes and high school routes. So it was really an eye-opener, I think, to both of us. And it was these meetings when we sit down and just talk and listen and understand each other's responsibilities have really helped. The other thing that I think benefits the behavior and the positive behavior greatly, the very first week of school, we have a bus that's parked in the parking lot for the entire day. We have a schedule from 8:05 until 2:35. Every single classroom, kindergarten through 5th grade, is on a schedule of a rotation, and the classroom teacher takes their class out to the bus. They physically get on the bus, and the teacher goes over the expectations and the rules of the bus for every child in every classroom every year. Because we really enforce that this is a classroom that's on wheels. And the same behavior that we expect our children to have in the classroom, we expect them to have on the classroom bus. So I think that's made a huge difference, and it's an expectation. So again, teaching the kids their expectations, and they come through for us. We also have quite a few positive reinforcements in place, and one of the things that Smoky Row does is we have postcards. We have a binder with every child's name and address on a label. And throughout the year, every single student at Smoky Row will get a postcard, a handwritten postcard by, it could be from a custodian, it could be from a cafeteria server, it could be from a teacher, someone in the office, or a bus driver. Every single bus driver has a stack of postcards on their bus, along with a kind of a little outline of what to fill them out. You know, if a child has positive behavior, they just write it out, hand it to me at the end of the day, and we read those postcards over the announcements, and the child gets a postcard delivered. And the bus drivers absolutely love doing this because it just reinforces the student's positive behavior. So we really do look at each other as partners for the whole child. We also reinforce all of these rules in January. So we don't just kind of give them a one-time expectation. We reinforce that throughout the year. And if a child does have a behavior issue on the bus, we have wonderful communication between the drivers and the administrators. And we have a discussion with the child and reteach them the rules or the expectations that they maybe were not meeting up to. So we do a reteaching of the behavior that was not desired. So our 3 main goals, and we talk about this all through the year as a team, that we want every child to be safe. That's our number 1 top priority. We want to increase positive behavior. We probably order more bus video to be viewed than any school because we want to announce on the loudspeaker at the end of the day certain bus numbers that we witnessed wonderful positive behavior on. So instead of asking for bus video so we can check for somebody doing things wrong, it's been really nice to say, Bus 99, we randomly chose your bus to watch the video, and you were displaying excellent behavior. Everyone were on their pockets, and great job. So that's...
Is that true?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
We haven't done 99 yet this year. Sorry. And our third goal, which we heard loud and clear from the bus drivers, is what we call a callback. When the buses have left the building, and then we have to call a bus driver back because a child maybe got on the bus when they should have gone to carpool, or there was a change of transportation. We started using the transportation widget And it's been very successful for Smoky Row. Every single day, we take each driver a list of any transportation changes they have on their bus. And we have not had one callback this year. Because that was a huge concern for the drivers. And I just think the key to all of this is communication, to listen to each other, and to reinforce the positive behaviors as a team. So, thank you.
I think I'll add to that. I think the 5 years I've been driving with Smoky Row, we've never had a callback. Never. That I know of, which is amazing. And that's just super. Now, I will say one thing. There's not a lot of stress, driving out of Smoky Row, but when I first started driving there, I had a full head of hair. So I don't know. So I don't know what the correlation is there, but you're doing a good job, and I appreciate it.
So, well, thank you for letting us share that.
Thank
and
you.
we truly are blessed. We know how fabulous our drivers are, our kids are, and our parents. So thank you for letting us share that with you.
Well, Jill and Larry, thank you very much. And I will quickly ask the board, do you have any questions that you might want to ask?
Not at all, but it was great to hear this. We don't often hear about the buses and what actually goes on. So this is actually a really fun and interesting report. Thanks, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, moving right along, we have consent. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation for consent items?
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Next, I will suspend our meeting yet again. Just for a moment for our public hearing. So at this time, 7:38. We'll suspend the meeting. And we will open a public hearing. So at this time, I will suspend our regular board meeting for an open public hearing to allow for public input regarding the proposed 2013 budgets, the referendum fund, debt service fund, transportation fund, capital projects fund, and the bus replacement plans. On August 13th, Mr. McMichael presented the proposed 2013 budgets, referendum fund, debt service fund, transportation fund, capital projects fund, and bus replacement plans. On August 27th, the board discussed these proposals and authorized the administration to advertise for public hearing. Mr. McMichael, would you like to make any comments regarding the proposal?
Just that our budget this year is just over $149 million for all funds. The board will take no action this evening after the public hearing, but rather on October the 23rd, the administration will recommend that the board adopt its budgets and as you said, the capital projects fund plan as well as the bus replacement fund plan. Those budgets and plans then will go into effect. Well, first they will go to the Department of Local Government Finance, and they finally will require state approval, not only your approval, but state approval. And after they are approved, then they will go into effect on January 1st, as our school system, most school systems in the state of Indiana operate on a calendar year budget.
Thank you very much. So then at this time, I'll offer members of the public an opportunity to make comments regarding these plans. If you do come up, please state your name and address for us. We will keep the floor open for 1 minute, and we'll begin now. $35 more seconds. More seconds. Three, two, one. Okay, minute is up. So we will close the hearing, seeing that we have had no participation. We'll call the meeting back to order, or we'll close the meeting at 7:41 to 41. Okay. Moving back to our general, call our other meeting back to order. Okay. Action. Pension bond resolution to Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. In 2003, Carmel Schools sold a pension bond, which was used to fund retirement expenses for Carmel Clay employees. At that time, the state allowed these bonds to be sold, but they could not you could not raise the tax rate as a result of that. Therefore, in order to sell the bonds, you had to neutralize the tax rate impact, which means that you had to lower another fund's tax rate in order to offset the tax rate necessary to repay these bonds. This year, there's a slight change, or is a change really, in the legislation, which allowed for 75% of the tax rate to be applied to the tax rate, and then only 25% now in 2013 is to be offset by another tax fund. And so this is also the last, these were 10-year bonds, so this is 2013 will be the last year for Carmel Schools pension bonds. And part of this resolution describes which fund will be, which tax rate will be lowered to do the partial offset. And in our case, the recommendation is to use our capital projects fund. And also, they're included in the resolution is language where you must specify that is your intention, that is to offset the tax rate for this fund by 25% from one of the acceptable funds. And so, in order to do that, it's necessary to pass what's referred to as the Neutrality Resolution, and that's what's presented before you.
Thank you, Roger. May I get a motion to bring this to the table?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Craig?
Thank
Mr.
you.
Phillips?
And Roger, thank you for the explanation. You may have mentioned this, but help me again. How much longer will we be looking at this pension bond?
2013 will be our last year. The bonds will pay off after we make the payments in 2013.
So this is literally the last time that we'll be having to do this sort of thing?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Klein?
Roger, I'm sure I've asked this as well, but this does not impact our ability to carry out any of the plans in our capital projects budget. Is that correct?
No, we anticipated this as a part of that process.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor of supporting the recommendation?
Aye.
Aye. Vote carries. Next on our agenda, we have the change orders. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. This is a add change order for $9,406 related to the project at the West Side Transportation Facility. The board's aware that we constructed an additional garage bay on that facility. This change order was to relocate the conduits to the fuel pumps that were under the pavement and really in the way of where this bay was built.
Okay, motion to support the recommendation.
Move to approve.
Second? Okay, discussion? Pam?
Yes. When they originally put the bid in, they did not know where the conduits were, and they had no idea that they'd have to move them?
Well, I don't know the specifics of it. Ron could answer that question for you while he's coming up to the microphone. I would say that they clearly it was not in their bid price, or we would have not recommended the additional cost.
They were not where they had been anticipated based on drawings from the previous, when the building was built. They showed up out of position, and so it required extra excavation and pavement removal.
Okay, so these were in the original plans that were on the bus facility?
Correct, from when the original building was built.
Okay.
Mr. Phillips, did you have something?
Thank you. It seems like a very small sum. Can we assume that the overall budget for this project includes the additional $9,000?
Well, yes, we have sufficient funds to cover the cost. This was about a $500,000 project, and so any project of that size, we do allow for some contingency for this type of thing that may come up that may have been unknown.
Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the recommendation?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have the establishment of a common wage committee. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. Under Indiana law, anytime we do a project that exceeds $250,000, we must establish a common wage, what's referred to as a common wage committee. The purpose of that committee is to establish the minimum wages that will be paid on the project. And when I say minimum wages, I'm talking about the categories of skilled trades and semi-skilled and so forth. Two of the members of this 5-member committee, the board appoints. Our recommendation is to appoint for the board to appoint myself and Ron Farron as 2 representatives for taxpayers. A third appointment is made by the Hamilton County Commissioners, and then there is an appointment made by the Department of Labor, as well as there's a representative that represents labor, so the State Federation of Labor. So you end up with a representation from a union contractors as well as non-union contractors, and then two representatives appointed by the board and 1 by the county commissioners. This is for the project to demolish the Hamilton Boone, the old Collegewood Elementary School.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, do we have a motion to bring it to the table?
I would like to move that we name Roger McMichael as our representative of industry and Ron Farron as the representative for the taxpayer, and further that the administration be authorized to seek the other appointments to the committee.
Do we have a second? Thank you.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. McMichael, we turn to you for the 2012-2013 goals of expenditures.
Thank you. In 2007-8, there was legislation passed which requires the governing body of the school corporation to establish goals for expenditures, and these goals are to be categorized in 1 of 4 categories, the first being student academic achievement, the second being student instructional support, then overhead and operational expenditures, and then non-operational expenditures. We've included that information as well as other detail in your report, and we're recommending that we do this every year, and recommending that the board again adopt the goals as included in your report.
Thank you, Roger. We have a motion to approve the recommendation.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the recommendation?
Aye.
Aye. Very exciting. Next on our list, the strategic plan. Into that, we will turn to Dr. Swenson.
Thank you, Madam President. With Mrs. Kendall's help, we'll get the general graphic or the visualization for our strategic plan. And as that comes up on the screen, I would recall to the board's attention the setup, if you please, of our strategic plan, and review very briefly where we have been in terms of discussing this previously. The core of our plan that we have brought forward to contained in the 3 sub-goals that our community will see on the far right as they look at the graphic in the brown rectangle. And those sub-goals, number 1, provide students with differentiated learning opportunities in order to be responsive to students' needs. Second, to fully engage students in learning. And third sub-goal, to use technology as a tool for learning, productivity, communication, and data solutions. In addition to holding one meeting in which we introduced the overall plan and its components, we also held, as you will recall, separate sessions during which we gave substantive and I thought had some very good discussions about the 3 different sub-goals. So I now come before you with all of that as the the preamble, if you please, with the recommendation that you approve our strategic plan, that it would be in effect over the next 3 years, and that we all work steadfastly together to accomplish this very important overall set of strategies for our corporation.
Thank you, Dr. Swenson. Do I have a motion to bring this to the table?
So moved.
Second?
And I will second.
Discussion.
I have comments. Actually, I've never been on the front grounds of a strategic planning process, and this began over a year ago. And I just personally want to commend that it included a mission statement. I know that was one area that was important to me and important to others. I'd like to thank, there were so many people involved, besides Dr. Swenson, Amy Dudley, Linda Thompson, Martha McFarland, the DALT committee, and another entire strategic planning committee, and even parents and staff that filled out a survey, over a year ago, too. So it really involved a lot of people, but not necessarily all at one time. So one person might say, well, now, how do we involve the community? It was a massive project, and that even goes to how much time the board dedicated to the discussions and the administration dedicated to discussions here in public. So I just commend the process and really was glad to be a part of what we've come up with. I think this is a really, instead of a stack of paper on the shelf, it's really what it was set out to be, a living, usable document with a lot of brain power behind it. So I'm truly excited to see this move into our curriculum. There's so many other changes, and I think this will help guide some of this. I just think it's a fabulous document to start with. So I thank you.
Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to note that the district received a charge from the Advanced Ed accreditation team to, among other things, to undertake strategic planning. And I think the board recognizes this as an important thing for us to do, and we in turn placed that duty on Dr. Swenson, who has responded, as you can see, in a very helpful and comprehensive fashion. I think we're off to a very, very good start with Carmel Clay Schools strategic planning. I know that the board very much is excited to see how this will unfold in terms of implementation, and I know too that we fully expect that the district will continue to improve how it does strategic planning. This is literally our first crack at it in a very, very long time. So I think we're launched, and we're very happy about that.
Any other discussion? Okay, well, since my colleagues summed up all the words I wanted to share, we will go to a move to vote on the recommended strategic plan that's before us. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Okay, next we'll move to discussion. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you again. This evening I'd like to share with you what eventually will become a recommendation for the board, and that is to establish an on-site wellness center, or sometimes referred to as a clinic. I prefer the terminology as wellness center, because what we really envision is this being an integral part of what we hope that Carmel Clay Schools will become a district that is very focused and centered on employee and wellness. We think that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to move the district forward in that regard, and will finally, ultimately result in making us, I believe, an even more attractive employer. But most importantly, an opportunity to be for the board and its administration to be a significant player in the health and well-being of our employees. You'll hear me go over some financial information, but really, I do not think that the financial aspects of a wellness center is the primary focus of this effort. I really believe that the effort is, well, the opportunity that we have to be a partner with our employees and hopefully resulting in their improved health and well-being. So with that, we started looking at this concept almost a year ago now. In October of 2011, we assembled a committee to consider proposals for a wellness center. Initially, we included, or we were looking not only for proposals for this, but also we have had existing services of trainer services at the secondary schools, and so that had been under a 5-year agreement with St. Vincent's Health, and so we were, and they have been doing that for about 15 years, I believe, but that 5-year agreement was expiring, and so we were also looking about our trainer services, and at the same time we recognized we have other health services, such everything from nursing services to we're of course involved in workers' compensation and those types of things. So we also looked at those services, or in the case of the nurses, not so much the nursing services, but really the support of the nurses, and some ancillary services that a health institution like St. V's or IU Health, for that matter, might be able to assist us with. And so, but a major part of that then was the concept of a wellness center. So we began with a group of people, including Dr. Swenson, myself, Steve Dillon, Bruce Wolf, the assistant athletic director at the high school, Lori DeGraff, our benefit specialist, and Richard Sutton, our insurance consultant. And so early on, we received proposals from IU Health, a company called Novia, which they're a business that focuses entirely on freestanding clinics, and then St. Vincent Health. After we reviewed the proposals, it was really a unanimous opinion on the part of the committee that the St. Vincent Health proposal was, in our mind, was clearly the best proposal we thought for Carmel Clay Schools, not only from a financial standpoint, but we felt their presence in the community and some other factors like that would make them a very good fit for us. And so we then, after the committee considered the proposal, we also shared that proposal later with our insurance committee, members of our insurance committee, as well as members of our wellness committee, and the majority of those members were also in support of this recommendation. Now, as I said, one of the major things that we believe the board should be focused on is how a wellness center might impact the health and well-being of our employees. But the fact is, we do have to consider cost, and as we do not have unlimited resources. And in the case of a wellness center, we really believe that certainly there is an expense associated with paying staff and so forth, but we absolutely believe that the net impact of the wellness center will not actually be a cost, but rather a cost savings. And you have a couple of major reports included in your board report, one of which indicates that nationwide the industry estimates that the payback it ranges from about 3 to 1 to up to 15 to 1. So we believe if we're even close to what's typically seen in the industry and in the marketplace, that we would fully expect that there would not be a cost to this program, but actually a cost savings, and that information is detailed in more specific detail in the report. We estimate that in terms of the costs, that there'll be an upfront cost. In terms of the clinic itself, as far as the physical facility, we have not determined where we would recommend that facility to be just yet, although we think a likely location would be the facility across from the high school that we recently acquired from the township trustee. The Life and Learning Center, it's currently named, and that facility has an area that we've visited, and of course, and it's already, there's an area there where the Legacy Foundation currently is leasing part of that space and it's already configured with small offices and so forth, and it has a separate entrance from the main entrance. So it has a lot of the attributes that we feel would be appropriate and necessary for a clinic, and certainly location-wise, it's across the street from about a third of our employees. So that would seem to be an advantage, as well as Carmel Elementary is not very far from there. So that's the first place that we are looking, and we currently are having some assessment as to what the cost might be to reconfigure that space for a clinic. We're estimating very early, but we're estimating just based on square footage that it may be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $75,000. So we would have that upfront cost. We would also have about another $50,000 we've estimated for things like furnishings and equipment for the clinic and so forth. Those costs we would pay from our capital fund. While we have not specifically budgeted for that, in the context of about $15 million, we feel we can, we have funds in there for various maintenance items and so forth, so that every dollar in that fund is not specifically targeted for something absolutely specific. And so we feel in more or less the operating funds within that budget that we could accommodate that expense. Now, in terms of the operating expense, the cost there, to a great extent, depends on the participation in the clinic. But based on our size and previous examples that, from our consultant's opinion, from the experiences that he has had, and he has had, by the way, he's been involved with the opening of, I believe, something like, it's in your report, something like 30-some clinics. So he has a great deal of experience. In fact, has a clinic in his own school district. He also happens to be president of the Brownsburg School Board, so he's more in the hat of a board member as well. And Brownsburg actually was one of the early school districts to open a clinic, and they've been very successful. Of all the clinics that have opened, I see it's 38 clinic openings. And he's expecting another 11 clinics open by the end of 2012. Not one of those clinics that have been opened have been closed, by the way. And so some of our neighbors, such as Zionsville, Hamilton Southeastern, have clinics now. And they have all reported very positive experiences with these. In terms of the operating costs, based on the assumptions that were made, and again, the detail that's in your report, we've estimated that the outgoing cost would approximate about $582,000. And again, the assumptions that are given show that that we would actually save money in the end, not have a net expense. Some of the costs, I would point out, however, are hard to quantify, because it's appropriate to include these costs, but you have costs like increased productivity in some areas that are not as concrete as prescriptions, for example. But the two major areas of cost, which do not show that it would cover the entire expense alone, but the first is it's very easy to track the cost of the clinic if an employee goes to the clinic for primary care rather than their own doctor in a standalone facility or private facility. And so that cost is you can track that very clearly. The other major cost or cost savings has to do with drugs and prescriptions, and again, those are very, very straightforward to calculate. So just those two cost items alone that are very clearly, we can very clearly track immediately, it covers the vast majority of the assumed cost. Now, the cost figure that I described is based on operation of the clinic of about 32 hours a week. In the end, we would operate the clinic based on the demands and the interest of our employees. If we had much less interest, we wouldn't just continue to operate 32 hours if we had no need for that. On the other hand, if we have more interest in that, then we would increase the hours, which I think would be a good thing, because from a cost standpoint, it would also increase the savings that we would have from having the clinic. So now, in terms of where those operational costs would come from, both the cost we would recommend would come from our general fund. We could take those costs, or consider taking the cost, from our insurance fund. I'm not recommending that because the revenue going into our insurance fund comes from two sources. The majority of it comes from the school board, because you're paying the majority of employee premiums, but the other portion of it comes from the employees. And so I'm not recommending that we use the insurance fund, and the reason I'm not is because sometimes you will have employees who will have opinions on such matters, and the feeling will be, part of the money you're spending is mine, and if I don't agree with the clinic, or in this case, and I've had no input in how you're spending my money, then you can see where that may lead. I believe that the payback, if you will, on the clinic is such that I do not believe the board is taking really a financial risk in paying the entire cost of the clinic, realizing that if the clinic has a net gain or savings, that savings then will accrue both to the school board as well as to the individual employees, because our insurance program is self-funded. So if the clinic results in lowering claims, which it absolutely will lower the cost of the drugs and the cost of the primary care visit, then the benefit of that will be, it will have a positive impact on the premium, and since the premium is in fact paid by both the school board as well as the employee, then both parties stand to gain, but the employee is putting nothing at risk if we use the general fund. So I would recommend that we would pay for this operation from our general operating funds, with a clear expectation that the savings as a result will be more than enough to override any cost associated with the clinic. So again, I've noted why we would recommend having a clinic. One has to do with the pricing aspect, but the second is the focus on wellness. Specific then to St. Vincent's Health, many of our employees already have a relationship with St. Vincent, given their location and so forth. So that's always an issue, because one of the things that comes up is whoever the provider is it somebody totally new, or is it somebody that I've had experience with? Many of our employees have had what we think are positive experiences with St. Vincent Health, and so that will, we think, be in our interest and in our employees' interest. Now, with regard to the use of the clinic, it's entirely voluntary. So only those employees that see this as a benefit presumably will participate. And they really should just look at this as another provider. Now, the difference between this provider and any other provider that they use is that to the employee, this provider has no cost to begin with. So when the employee goes to the clinic, they pay nothing. Everything there, including any drugs that are dispensed through the clinic, are entirely free to the employee. So now, as we have a high deductible health plan option in our plan offerings to our employees, a wellness center and clinic become very attractive, starting with those employees, because if they have an individual $3,000 deductible, so they're paying the first $3,000 of their individual cost. Now, if they go to the clinic and have no co-pays for the doctor, also if they're on any drugs that are dispensed through the clinic. Now, the clinic would not dispense narcotics and generally brand name drugs. They're generally going to be dispensing generic drugs. but if the employee is on drugs that are dispensed through the clinic, then they have no co-pays for those as well. And even our employees that are on the traditional point of service plan, and even though that plan, of course, has a maximum out of pocket, the drug costs do not track toward that maximum out of pocket. So we have a number of employees, for example, if they're on a maintenance drug, regardless of what their other medical expenses are, where they may hit the maximum out of pocket, they continue to pay for any co-pays on their prescriptions. So there's certainly a benefit to all employees, but in particular, if you're on the high deductible plan, employees can see a real financial benefit there. Again, I don't want to overly dwell on the finances, because what I really think is that also when you go to the clinic, the average, the first initial visit with the doctor is 45 minutes. That's not typical in the industry, that's the length of your first doctor visit. And the follow-up visits are 30 minutes, and that's not typical either. So this doctor is going to be focused on preventative and wellness, not just treating a problem that now exists. Certainly they do that, but there's just a different mentality. The doctor is paid by the hour rather than by the visit or whatever, and so there is no paperwork to fill out either for the employee or the doctor. I mean, the doctor's keeping records, but not all the insurance type of paperwork that's filled out. All the records, by the way, for the employee are transferable to if they have their own primary physician or any other physician that they want records sent to. Those records are all sent to their various doctors, so there's a total coordination of that type of information. So what we hope and what the experience has been is many employees will see an on-site wellness center as a benefit to them, both financially as well as the focus on their care and well-being. The staffing of the clinic would include a physician, either a nurse practitioner or a nurse, as well as a medical assistant. Then in addition to that, there's also ancillary staff that's available, dietitians on the wellness aspect of things, dietitians, lifestyle coaches. There's other healthcare professionals that the employee would have access to. And again, they can have access to some of this or all of this. It's entirely voluntary on the part of the employees. I said that from the employee's perspective, they should really look at this as another alternative to whatever other health care that might be out there. One of the difference being is that there's no cost to the employee for this, and the perspective will be different in terms of the amount of time and so forth. They tell me that in the clinic there's about 2 chairs because there is no waiting in the doctor's office. The appointment is predetermined, as many of them are, but the difference here is when you get there, they're more or less waiting on you. There really is no kind of stereotypical wait in the doctor's office. And so employees naturally find that appealing as yet another aspect of it. I'm hopeful that for our employees, the convenience will also be a major factor. As I said, almost a third of our employees should this facility be located across the street from the high school, almost a third of our employees are, it's across the street. And I'm hopeful that that the board will support a point of view that we would be very supportive of the employees using the facility, including during the work hour, if they could go over and try. We would want to work with them to try to schedule their appointment. Not if they worked in the cafeteria, we might not want them going over the lunch hour, for example. But generally, again, it's of the interest to the employee to employer to encourage participation. So I think the more we could support that, the better. So I could go on about this for about another hour or two, but since this is for discussion tonight, and we'll bring it back in a couple of weeks, at this point, I'll stop and just respond to questions that you might have.
Roger, thank you, and I will defer to my colleagues because I have a number of questions, but I will just quickly say I was very impressed, having sat in some of those insurance meetings, with the proposal that came from St. Vincent Health. It was a very comprehensive plan that I think, even the ancillary services that aren't going to be at that institution or at that location, but going out to our schools, the school nursing program, all the wellness that they will help us foster with our children, I think is fantastic. So with that, who would like to go first? Pam.
Thank you. Yes, I came up with several questions, if that's okay. First of all, you said that we should be, or we're looking at the site across the street from the high school, but that doesn't mean it is specific. So if we don't go with that site, do we have a second thought, and what would the projected cost be then?
We do not have specifically a second thought in terms of having identified a specific location. If absent that location, we would look for another location that we would believe would be conveniently located for our employees. Aside from that location being, across the street from the high school, geographically it's not totally central, but it's in a pretty good location in terms of just where all of our employees are, where all of our facilities are at. It's not totally centralized, but then our facilities, like the high school, is not exactly in the middle of the school district either. So, but we would look for another somewhat centrally located location. Now, the difference would be in terms of cost. Presumably, any other location we're looking at now, we're looking at paying a lease or rent. And for, that would certainly, I don't know how much that would add to the cost, depending on the location and so forth, but it certainly would add to the cost. I'd venture to say that it would add somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 a year, would be my guess, just based on square footage. And so there would be, there definitely would be additional upfront cost if we were using, commercial space that we were paying a market lease amount for.
Okay. May I continue? Okay. Would you go back over the $582,000 that you projected would be the yearly cost?
Yes.
Okay. And so that includes what?
And let me pull this up so I can refer to it. But it includes, in the end, it includes all the costs of the clinic, but those costs then, let me get to the, those costs include cost of all the staff, which, as I said, would be a cost of the cost of a physician, a nurse practitioner, and a medical assistant, all the supplies and lab expenses and technology fees and everything from copier expenses to their insurance, patient education. So we will certainly market this to our employees and so forth. So those would be the primary care cost. In terms of the wellness cost, it equates to about 0.4 FTE for various staff, wellness staff, dietitians, MSWs, patient advocates, that type of staff, and that would be driven by the need and of employees. So, and then you have the cost of the drugs themselves that are dispensed through the pharmacy. That's estimated, for example, at a little over $112,000 for the drug costs. And so the total is $582,000. Then the projected cost avoidance is $831,000. This is the first year with an estimated savings of $249,000 and change. So over a 5-year period, it's estimated that the district would actually save $2.2 million. Now, again, part of that, in terms of, we certainly will track our expenses and our costs, included in those savings are things that are not as easy to track, I guess I would say, as like your drug cost and your primary care visits. Things related to if you reduce obesity, for example, they're showing $10,000 of savings. Productivity gain based on asthma, so you've got $70,000. So, and yet there's plenty of track record out there that these numbers, I think, are pretty solid based on the industry experience. The experience with other school districts it's been very clear just in terms of their premium increases or the lack of them. There's been examples where there have been school districts that have not had a premium increase for 2 or 3 years. That's unheard of, as you know. We had no increase to our premium last year, but then that's followed this year by a 10% increase, which is still below the trend. So again, these margins are such that if they're, they're so much beyond what the cost is that a whole lot of people would have to be just totally wrong for us to be the exception to the rule in terms of the savings that would result. So we just feel very confident that the effort will result in a savings, not an expense.
Okay, so and you said that the $582,000 would come out of the general fund, and so that would eventually lower the cost of the premium.
Well, not eventually. I mean, as I said, the drug costs and the primary care visits are going to be very easy to see. I mean, we'll know exactly what we paid for drugs. We know exactly what those drugs cost right now through mail order or retail, or some other, just at the drugstore. So those aren't those I wouldn't fall in the category of an eventual savings. Those will be absolute day one. We'll know exactly what they are. Whether or not they will be sufficient to cover the just as obvious direct expenses of the physician and the operation of the clinic, I don't know. The assumptions that you have before you would indicate that they would not cover the total cost, but they cover something like 80% or maybe over 80% of the cost. So certainly the vast majority of the cost will be offset with just those two factors, which will be very clear and very, very easy to track. Now, other things, which is why this is over 5 years, because if we're going to reduce healthcare costs related to smoking, for example, or obesity, that's not going to happen in 6 weeks or probably 6 months. So some things absolutely will take more time to build up some history. We'll certainly have some indications from those, however, just in terms of participation and incidentally, you're going to be hearing from me on a number of other wellness initiatives, such as a pedometer program, a walking program, and so we'll have lots of statistics in terms of other aspects of things that we're doing, and so it will. Anytime you have an initiative and are kind of attacking it from multiple fronts, and you have a positive result, it's not always, is this because of the walking program or is it because of the clinic? Well, we really think it's because of all the above, and certainly we'll monitor everything that the board approves that we go, put in place, because we are a very data-driven organization, and that certainly won't be an exception with this initiative. So the primary care visits and the drug costs, I would categorize those as immediate the first year. The other things will not be as immediate, and would take some time before you get a sense of whether this is making any difference or not. Intuitively, certainly, if you have information that suggests that that you have employees that are becoming more active and participating in weight loss programs and so forth, I think there's certainly a general understanding that that's likely to contribute to better health. But some of those things are not as directly measurable as is the example of the drug costs, for example.
Okay, so this is going to eventually lead to cost savings for the employee.
Yes, where the savings for I'm convinced that this will lead to cost savings for both the employer and the employee. And it really is in relationship to who pays the premium. So the board pays you pay 65% of a family plan and 80%, I believe, of the single plan. And so you're paying, on average, you're paying upwards to 75% or more of the premium. And so if you think of it as 75-25, then, and since we are self-funded in our health care program, if we have, to the extent we have a net savings, if we save $2 million over 5 years, we meaning the employer and the employees, then both sides of that equation are going to save their respective share of the premium, as that premium, it may not literally go down, but it's suppressed as compared to what it would be absent this type of initiative. And then the benefit of, I'm not sure how you put a price on improved health and well-being, which, as I said earlier, that really is we will spend a lot of time talking about the money aspect of this, but you know, when you hear the first testimony of somebody that was related to me as an example, where an individual in another school district, actually it was a school board member, I believe, that said, you know, they just did not go to the doctor, and but they went to the clinic doctor and found they had some type of aneurysm or something. It was almost sure bet they were not going to be around very long, and so that example became, you know, the kind of the poster person for that school district. So, and there are, you know, hundreds of stories like that, and some are not as significant as that. There are others where, you know, people have been assisted in everything from their emotional well-being to their physical well-being, their just their activity level, all kinds of things. And again, I think in the end, that's what I think we'll end up being most proud of, and what would be most meaningful to our employees. Because whatever we save on premiums pales as compared to, you know, if it's our employee or one of their family members that something happens that's very positive in their life relative to their health and well-being.
Okay, I have some other questions, but I'll let somebody else.
Mr. Phillips, you had some questions?
Thank you. First of all, Roger, I want to express my own appreciation that you and others on your team have really dug into this. I think it's, on the face of it, a very exciting and commendable and creative effort to help employees as well as to help the district. If we invest in the health and wellness of our employees, that'll ultimately reap dividends in terms of better teaching, longer and happier careers, and ultimately higher academic achievement than if we have employees who are sick, not feeling well, and have to leave the profession early. I do have just a couple of real quick questions. One, could you just kind of maybe paint a little bit more of a picture of what would be the typical kinds of things that employees would go to the clinic for? I'd like to get a sense of what's generally in scope for this clinic, and on the other hand, what kinds of things are outside of the scope of the clinic. And then if you could just mention a couple of these districts or major employers that are currently enjoying this kind of clinic.
Well, the staffing at the clinic would provide for primary care. So we're not talking about a heart specialist or any other kind of specialist. So the clinic would be one choice that the employee would have for primary care. They don't have to choose the clinic, by the way, and the primary care doctor there over perhaps their existing primary care physician. They may have a child with an earache on a Friday afternoon, and they may bring the child to the on-site clinic for that, even though they have a primary care physician. Maybe that physician's not available, or they just, you know, they just want to come and get in and get out, and so it's not the clinic or something. It's not either. You can use the clinic all you want, or as little as you want, or not at all. You don't have to make any choices in terms of giving up another. But the staffing there is clearly primary care in terms of the doctor. As with any primary care physician, if the patient needs to see a specialist, then they're going to refer them to a specialist, or at least offer them, recommendations or whatever. Again, they may have their own specialist already. You take somebody that's not, maybe has a chronic condition like asthma, for example. They may go there to. Frankly, they may go there as much as anything to get the drugs at no copay. Now, they can't go and just get a prescription filled. They have to see the doctor. And so, and they're going to see the doctor for 45 minutes. So there are going to be a lot of questions and a lot of things that they don't just get to go and take the free drugs and leave. So, but the hope would be is that part of that meeting with the physician would, that sometimes that brings out issues and circumstances that the patient didn't go in planning on talking about or even being aware of. But oftentimes that 45 minutes with a doctor will lead to a lot more insight than 10 minutes. And so to answer your question, the service there starts as primary care, but then all the connections with wellness activities, or a dietitian, for example, or a lifestyle coach, those are all things that they would have the opportunity to be connected to as well. Oh, I'm sorry. 2 or 3 that come to mind. Zionsville, St. V's actually put in a clinic in Zionsville a year or 2 ago, and IU Health, a different provider, but IU Health, I believe, operates the clinic in Hamilton Southeastern. And then Brownsburg, I believe Brownsburg's clinic may be Novia, or at least it started out that way, I believe. And so those are 3 school examples that I'm particularly aware of. Again, there are numerous others that I don't know offhand which ones they are.
I have a quick question. What would be our contractual obligation should we find that the clinic is not working for us?
Very little in terms of time. I mean, it's not like, you have to do this for, 2 or 3 years. First, in terms of we start with the hours, again, based on our size and so forth. The assumption is we would be looking at starting with about 32 hours. If we found that was, again, either not enough or too much, we would cut back accordingly, and could. I mean, we're really not bound. I think the risk is really the upfront risk of the facility itself. I mean, we're going to spend $100,000 or $125,000 maybe for the facility aspect and equipment and so forth, and so that is at risk. But not so much the ongoing cost. If it doesn't work, we're not under any obligation to just keep doing it, whether it works or not.
Thank you.
I do have one question, and I actually asked this via email, but just want to get it out there. We've had a wellness committee for a little over a
probably a year
now,
or better,
and a group of employees that have really jumped in and started some really good initiatives. One being Weight Watchers on site, and a couple other things. What are our obligations? Like Layla said, what are our contractual obligations as far as some of these other initiatives that are being started or just started, and then going with this wellness center?
Well, let me tell you what comes to mind that we have right now. You mentioned Weight Watchers. We're just starting. Well, we've done some things with Weight Watchers, but we're looking to expand that. We've had schools, individual schools that have initiated programs. You heard Nurse Diane talk about some of the things that they're doing with either the children or the staff. Certainly, we're not talking about children with this initiative, but we've had individual examples to where an individual school has started certain initiatives. One of the things that we're really focusing here is term that I've really grown fond of, and that's being systematic and systemic. And so the Weight Watchers, for example, we're now talking to Weight Watchers not about the entire school district, whereas in the past maybe a school has called somebody Weight Watchers and maybe they've gotten something going for their school. My intent now is to look at these things from the district's perspective, and Weight Watchers is one example, which really doesn't directly have anything to do with this. I mean, they aren't in competition, and I mean, that could be in competition, but it's not like an all or nothing. Another more significant example is, as you remember, last year we began doing blood draws and with a company called CHC, and so we're about ready to do those for the second year now, and now at some point, the blood draws could be done by St. V Health. Whether or not that would be the case this particular year, I kind of doubt it, given the timing and so forth. But again, they're not. Well, they could be in competition. They both can do blood draws, but it's not a problem for them to work together. I gave the example any more than the school board has more than one attorney, and they aren't. While they're in competition with each other in the sense that they both offer legal services, it's not like, well, if I either want all your business or none of it. I mean, it doesn't work that way, and it doesn't work that way in the healthcare either. They would like to have all the business, I suppose, but they understand that that's usually not the way things are, because, well, in the end, we're going to look to whoever we think is the best, and of course, we want the best also, not only individually the best, but the best within the overall scheme of things. So part of the requirement is you have to fit within our overall our overall initiative.
So it's not really a contractual problem, but it's just something we ongoingly look
right,
at. And
absolutely.
discuss. Okay, that makes total sense. And I really appreciate this too, being now the liaison on the insurance committee for the board, and getting in on the recent conversations. Very enlightening, the support. Thanks.
One of the things I alluded to is our high deductible plan. It's not been very long. We just started that plan in January of 2012, so it's not even been in place for a year. We have over 150 employees that are enrolled in that plan out of about 1,100, so if you can put that in that perspective. This year when we hired our new teachers, 75% of those teachers chose the high deductible plan. Along with that plan, those part of the concept of a high deductible is that the employee, in fact, will be much more involved in their own decision making relative to their health care, because first they're going to pay the first $3,000 individually, and if they have a family plan, they're going to pay the first $6,000 of their health care expenses. I found when that's the case, speaking for myself, that I'm a little more aware of what various medical procedures cost, or what generic drugs cost versus brand name drugs, all those things, and so that program will involve our employee more in their own decisions on their health care, and I think again the opportunity to have a employer wellness center as a part of that mix that they have to choose from, I think will be very attractive to our employees.
Thanks.
How, well, depending on Roger's answers.
Well, then that won't be so fast.
Make them fast.
Okay.
Okay. Has there or will there be discussions or an open meeting with employees as to what they may want to see in the clinic, or if they have any questions?
The short answer is yes. Anytime you're offering something that's totally voluntary, you certainly want to know what would be most attractive to the employees. Now, the part that I'm hesitating a little bit in terms of what's offered in the clinic, an employee might, as long as they understand what's reasonably possible in the clinic. So, not that this is an absurd example, but we're not going to have a heart specialist there, for example. And so while they might want or need that, this wouldn't be the place that they would get it. So within the context of what a wellness center can reasonably be expected to provide, we're certainly going to absolutely find ways to try to determine what their interests are, because obviously they aren't interested, they aren't going to participate.
Right.
In the same way with other initiatives like the other wellness kinds of initiatives.
Okay, and the other question I had was an email question that I sent to you about Express Scripts, because we talk about prescription drugs being available in this program, and if that's the case, will they still be required to participate in that?
If the drug is available through the clinic, then the employee can, they can go to the clinic and get it. I think that's your question.
Yeah.
Even if otherwise it were a maintenance drugs and would be required to, at the moment, would be required to do through mail order. If that same or equivalent drug or an alternative drug that was acceptable were available through the clinic, and they said, no, I'm going to now go to the clinic to get this and basically get it free, that would be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's the whole point, because
my questions were
the mail order is less expensive than the corner drugstore, but the clinic is free to the employee, but also so much less to the actual cost of that drug to the employer. That's why it's free to the employee, because we can basically give the drug to the employee, and it will still cost less than the actual cost minus the copay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Roger. That was a very thorough discussion. If you do have any board members still have questions, by all means, we will have another opportunity to discuss, and you could also send an email directly to Roger and copy the rest of us. We'd be interested in knowing those answers as well. Next, we turn to Roger for...
Okay. Seeing if anybody's still left out in the audience. Usually when I talk, everybody leaves. But there's a few people left, so I'll talk some more. Okay, next report is still for discussion, but it's relative to the agreement between the Carmel Clay School Board and the Carmel Clay Bus Drivers Association. In addition to the Teachers Association, the school board does recognize the Carmel Clay Bus Drivers Association. That's not an entitlement with that group, but for a number of years, at least 20, that this school board has been willing to recognize that association, and so I meet and a couple others that I work with, administrators meet with this group. Larry Lester, who was here earlier with Smoky Row, is one of the individuals that I've met with this year and have for several years, but he's one of the representatives of that association, and so we've met with regard to their agreement, and I have shared with them some of the significant changes that are going on in Indiana schools relative to contracts and so forth. And so I proposed, and they were agreeable to the concept of their agreement, including only salary and wage related benefits. And so what we did together really was, and we have a very positive relationship, by the way, and so what we did together was to take the existing agreement and really created three categories. We've got either it's still in the agreement, which is salary and wage related benefits. The item has been moved to the existing, or will be an amendment this year, but it's moved to the bus driver handbook, and was either directly moved or in some cases was modified and then moved, or it was deleted altogether. And one of the examples, for example, of the deleted altogether was a grievance process. And while drivers certainly have a complaint process, which they often sometimes confuse with a grievance process, they certainly, like all of our employees, have potential that they could disagree with something or otherwise have a complaint, and certainly the school district has an avenue to air those concerns and complaints. I stated that sometimes in the past a grievance process was confused with a complaint because, as the board knows, a grievance is a violation of the agreement, and there are many more things that an employee is likely to be upset about or want to have a complaint about that really is not a violation of the agreement, but they may have a very legitimate complaint. And so I'm actually hopeful that, and this was the only classified employee group that had this formal grievance process. So again, being systematic and systemic, I'm also in the context of this agreement trying to move in that direction to where our bus drivers as one employee group amongst our classified employees, that there is more consistency in how we approach those things. So we had those three categories. There were about 3 or 4 major proposed changes in the agreement. One is that we have about 20 bus drivers out of about 180 that are grandfathered with our health insurance. Since 2006, new drivers have not been eligible for insurance, but we did not take insurance away from anybody. So we have about 20 drivers remaining that are on our health insurance program. And so the agreement includes a proposed increase of the board's contribution for bus drivers of 10%, which was consistent with what you did with all other employees, as that was the premium increase this year. A second change was to eliminate a 401A contribution. Bus drivers right now they're the only employee group that you have that otherwise are not eligible for benefits, but they have a 1% contribution, a benefit of a 1% contribution to a retirement program. Again, another inconsistency, and that came about because when they did have insurance, they had the 1%. So we eliminated insurance in 2006, did not eliminate the contribution to the 401A. So the proposal includes a recommendation that would be eliminated. Now, they didn't lose the money because we then moved that 1% essentially over to their salary schedule. And actually, it was better for the bus driver because the 1% had a 10-year vesting cycle, and many of our drivers don't stay for 10 years, so they didn't actually receive that money. Putting it on their salary schedule, of course, they will receive it. And if they want to save for retirement, they certainly have that opportunity because we have a 403B program, which is very similar to the 401A, that they can choose to put money for retirement. And then finally, relative to our bus drivers' demographics, many of our drivers are at an age where this may be a retirement position that they've acquired after retirement from a career, and many are not looking at this point to save for retirement. But they certainly have would continue to have that opportunity. And then the third change was we've compressed the salary schedule a bit from 8 steps to 6, and then we eliminated what had been at what we called the grandfathered step. Several years ago we did an assessment and decided that the drivers at that time that were at the highest end of our salary schedule, that was actually more than we felt we needed to pay. So again, we grandfathered those drivers at that higher pay, but other drivers could never then get to that higher pay. And of course that was an issue with the drivers because they didn't like the idea that they could never achieve the highest pay that we were paying. And so over the years we suppressed the increase in that step, and this year we finally eliminated it altogether. And so certainly from the driver's perspective, that was a positive. And then finally, the overall cost of this proposal, I've estimated it's about 3% total cost with all the various changes that we've made. This proposal has been taken to the bus drivers, and all bus drivers, whether they're members of the association or not, are permitted to vote, and most of them do. And it did pass by a majority of our drivers. So they have ratified this proposal, and we would plan to bring it back to you for action at the next board meeting.
Any discussion? Oh, wow. Okay. Then next on the agenda, Superintendent Goals.
Thank you very much, Madam President. We have presented these goals previously to the board, and in bringing them back here for a brief discussion this evening, I just wanted to call the board's attention to the fact that I have prioritized 3 of these goals, and you'll see them in your packet and or on the screen. And pardon me, in terms of prioritizing, I have bold-faced. I want to do all the goals, but I'll work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday on goal number 1, which has to do with the standard of performance. Goal number 3, the statutory designation of the Carmel Clay Schools as a performance-qualified school district. And third, to work on establishing our expectations, and then I will reserve Sunday afternoon for the remaining 3 goals. Just kidding. So the issue here is the goals themselves have not changed. I see them all as very important, but the board did ask for some sense for prioritizing, so I have done so, but obviously we haven't discussed that, so there it is for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Swenson. I would first like to say thank you for prioritizing, and I do like how the ones that you've prioritized very much so align with the strategic plan to support the goals for our board.
Yes.
I will turn it over to others who might have discussion, questions, statements, comments.
Yes. Have you thought about possibly writing a personal goal?
Well, that was something you and I chatted about earlier today, and so since that time, yes, I have.
Any other comments, questions? I know we've seen these a few times, and we've had them in our possession for quite some time, and we actually, I think July.
Yes.
No, August or July, we had
yeah.
our Prezi. That was great.
Yes.
Mrs. Hackett?
I guess I just want to make a comment, and I've made this before. I have to commend your spirit and go-get-itness. There are, and we've talked about this, there are a lot of action steps. I've seen you work for a while now, and somehow, some way, you do make it to a lot of action steps. I think that gives the district as a whole, but our board, as we look into a more standardized superintendent evaluation, just as that way of looking at things, to pare things down to measurement. Not that everything relies on that, but so I guess I just want to say that I still jostle with that in my mind. I don't know what I would pull out, because they all seem more than valid. But I still have that little fight in my mind, but I don't know where to go with it. So just putting it out there.
Sure. Well, in addition to aligning the prioritized goals with the strategic plan, I think there are elements, certainly without all of the goals here stated, that will align effectively with the superintendent's rubric, which I know the board had some experience with during the ISBA convention or presentations that you heard today. So since all of us are learning about RISE, that's for every job category for certified colleagues, I'm not arguing with you. I think we've got several, like Lego blocks. How do they all fit together, and where are the windows and where are the doors? I think we are still trying to figure that out. I would be hesitant to right now, since we don't know how it all fits, to jettison any one of these, but I certainly will prioritize as indicated.
Yeah, and I like that approach. I think that's a good approach. Like I said, when I looked at them, there's nothing I would say, well, I don't want Jeff to look into that. But and I don't want one evaluation tool to determine where you take our district either. I don't want that to be the determinant. So I think this is a nice balance, this prioritizing. So thanks.
Good.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Phillips.
Dr. Swenson, job well done. I appreciate the prioritization. It's good to have focus. And I like to share with people that perhaps don't have the opportunity to see you in action the way the rest of us do, that this is a very hard-working individual. He's here, I think, around 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not sure when he goes home.
It's only when someone brings donuts. 6:30 otherwise.
Boston cream donuts. But excellent job, Jeff.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Swenson. Okay, let's move on to board goals, and it does have my name next to it, but Mr. Klein so graciously worked with our board to solidify our goals, so we will let Andy continue.
Thank you, Leila. At least since I've been on the board each year, the board does try to establish a short list of goals to help guide our actions during the year. These goals were developed during the course of multiple conversations and particularly during a retreat that we held at the end of the summer. The goals that I'm going to just read you on the slide are designed to be distinct from ongoing responsibilities that the board has in each and every year, and I know that Leila is going to talk about those in just a couple of minutes. So just lay out 4 things that I hope will guide the board's actions during the coming academic year. The first is that we're going to work with the administration and other stakeholders to begin implementation of the new strategic plan and then institutionalize an annual process for board review. We passed the strategic plan tonight. That was an important first step, but then I think we need to develop plans so that we don't let that slide, so that we continue to make the strategic plan a living, breathing document. As all of you know, we began a review of our policy structure and how we can keep up in terms of maintaining our policies. So one of our goals for this year should be to complete a review of our policy structure. That's something that we're doing now in conjunction with our council, and then I think it's important by the end of the academic year that we have a regular process for maintaining those policies. That's something we haven't done a good job on, frankly, over the past couple of years, and I'm convinced that we're on a path to where we're going to do a better job with that after this year. The third goal aligns with one of Jeff's, I believe one of your bold-faced goals, Dr. Swenson, and that's to work hand in hand with our superintendent to promote a legislative initiative resulting in what we call a formal performance qualified school district designation. We've called that the High Performing School District Initiative. I know everybody on the board, spearheaded by my colleague Pam, has done a good job working with our state legislators to try and achieve that designation. And I'm confident that if we don't actually get that passed in the state legislature, we're going to make a whole lot of noise about it along the way. Finally, board wants to remain committed to being educated and informed regarding developments in Indiana education law and policy. That law has changed dramatically during the past 2 years, and as a board, we are making a commitment to stay informed on developments in that area. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any comments? Discussion? Okay. Well, I just wanted to briefly touch upon the ongoing responsibilities of our board. These are, some were past goals, but in general, these are obligations that the board finds to be, in essence, part of our job, our daily job. And so those would include supporting contract negotiations in the bargaining process while complying with state statutes, further develop and enhance all stakeholder relations and communications, overseeing a transparent budgeting process, supporting a safe, optimal learning environment for our students and staff, and work with the superintendent to communicate with our state legislators and other key representatives. Yay! Moving on to reports. We just have one report, and actually I'll be giving that report. On behalf of the school board, I'd like to share an update about negotiations. As we have discussed, and I'm going to read it verbatim so I do not deviate from the message. As we have discussed at prior board meetings, the Indiana legislature has narrowed the scope of collective bargaining between school districts and teachers' unions. In fact, the legislature made it unlawful for a school district to bargain over anything except salary, wages, and salary and wage-related fringe benefits. Because of the change in the law, many provisions in last year's collective bargaining agreement between the district and the Carmel Clay Education Association no longer are part of the contract and are items which are prohibited by law from bargaining. These items include, but are not limited to, things such as unpaid leaves of absence, just cause and due process, and class size. The fact that these non-economic items no longer are enforceable through the collective bargaining agreement has prompted a number of questions and concerns about how the district is going to handle these matters going forward. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the board to publicly address those questions and concerns. Even though our district is no longer obligated to follow the non-economic provisions that previously were part of the collective bargaining agreement with the CCEA, the board wants everyone to know that the district intends to continue to follow them at this time. In addition, the district is developing a process to review these items in a transparent and deliberate manner that takes into consideration the views of all our stakeholders, including teachers, as we determine what, if any, changes to make to these items. We anticipate this process will begin shortly and will be completed by spring break at the latest. But again, just to be clear, the board wants everyone to know that even though these non-economic items are no longer enforceable through the collective bargaining agreement, the district has nevertheless decided to continue to follow them unless and until they are changed through the process I just described. And with that, we move to Superintendent's report.
Thank you, ma'am. Very quickly, two fast items. First of all, Carmel Rise, our new evaluation process is well underway, and I'm delighted to report that slightly more than 80% of all certified teachers have engaged in and or received at least one evaluation. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but September is not even over, and whether it's a short or an extended evaluation, colleagues are eagerly and very positively engaged in this process, and from the discussions I've had just informally around the district, there's a lot of great discussion about instruction going on, which was the whole point. So that's just it's kind of an interim update, but one that I find for the very first month of activity very, very important. The second matter, you have, members of the board have a stapled quick memorandum for me dated today. I will not belabor the point, but the memorandum includes my thoughts and my abiding concerns about the grades for schools and school districts that will be visited upon us and every other school and school district in the state by the Indiana Department of Education. These have not been formally released, but apparently will be formally released in some point in the near future. The concern, and we can make this into a discussion item for later, so this is simply a very brief report. The concern is that what the Indiana Department of Education has on its hands is what they call the A through F accountability system. However, I find, and this is after a great deal of research and a great deal of discussion with other school districts, that in point of fact, the system or the process for delivering these grades is a statistical charade. There is literally no simple or clear way for the Indiana Department of Education to explain how any grade is given. I can't tell you that the grades are earned because no one knows how the grades truly are calculated. So that while I am very optimistic by virtue of our extremely hard work and our abiding drive to, in fact, be excellent, that our grades will be positive, when those grades are formally released and you all as a board properly look at me and say, well, Dr. Swenson, how did we earn these grades? How do we get these grades? I will answer you, as I would always try to, in a very honest and straightforward way, and my response will be, I don't know. And I'm not being coy or silly about it. This is an exceptionally serious concern across the state. And while our hard work is going to bring, I think, very effective grades, this is not a boo-hoo-hoo or complaint that somehow we're getting a bad grade. I don't really know what our grades will be, but I think they'll be okay. What my concern is, and again, we can discuss it at a later point, is that the Indiana Department of Education has established for all schools in the state an incomprehensible, indecipherable, meaningless, negatively skewed system for grading schools and school districts. And it frankly, since it begs description and cannot be described, it therefore, from my perspective as your superintendent, is instructionally and educationally bankrupt. And with that in mind, I can certainly, again, with discussion at another point, elucidate that. So when we receive our grades, I will certainly be happy to discuss them, but I honestly will not be able to tell you how we got them. That concludes my report.
Wow. Thank you. Any other board reports?
I would like to
I'll
ask
let Greg go first.
A brief question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Dr. Swenson, what would be the timing on these grades?
I'm sorry, the timing?
Yes, when will we
Well,
get these grades?
the Indiana Department of Education indicated that, and I think I said something about this perhaps a meeting or two ago, just very briefly, indicated that they would yield unto us preliminary grades through a super secret process of codes and other devices. They not only were late with that, but then were wrong. In other words, they changed their own grades, but of course we don't know why or how. With that in mind, we are anticipating a formal release of these grades within the next 2 to 3 weeks. However, having said that, the Indiana Department of Education, in my professional opinion, plays footloose with their own deadlines and with their own calendar, so that when they tell you you have to have something in, meaning a school or a school district, they'll hold your feet to the fire. When they announce they're going to issue something at a certain said date or time, it's just kind of whenever they get around to it. So, and again, I'm not being coy or trying to avoid your question, Mr. Phillips. It's another, I really don't know. We anticipate 2 to 3 weeks, but certainly I will alert the board as to the formal release. Again, at that time, we will certainly bring this forward and discuss it. But it quite frankly is a house of cards.
I wonder if anyone has considered creating an A through F accountability system to measure the Department of Education's performance.
I would wager that around the state there have been several thoughts about that.
To piggyback on what Dr. Swenson said, I'm a member of the Legislative Committee for the Indiana School Boards Association, and I just wanted you to know that today during our delegate assembly, this was a new resolution that was voted on and accepted today, and it was proposed by me and a member of the School Board Association in Hammond. So the two of us wrote the resolution and proposed it, and the School Board Association accepted it. And so we are now going to be looking into this accountability system as a group. Because of one of our goals is to stay educated, we also, Layla and I have attended the fall conference today for Indiana School Board Association, and looking forward to tomorrow's conference because the Democratic and the Republican candidates for governor and the superintendent of public instruction, there are 2 candidates. I don't know if people are aware of that, but there is a Democratic candidate running against Tony Bennett, and her name is Glenda Ritz. So we will hear from both of them tomorrow.
We have basic announcements. I just want to mention that our board meeting, normally scheduled on the 4th Monday in October, will be on the 4th Tuesday in October because of fall break. So if you should come and it's dark, we are not here. And with that in mind, thank you for joining us this evening. Meeting adjourned.
you.